Hello everyone, we interned at Bear Hollow Zoo this summer. I'm Jenna Reinhardt.
I'm Elizabeth Fincher.
And I'm Abby Abuhamdan.
So before we go into what we did this summer, I'd like to tell y'all a little background of the zoo. So before it was a zoo, it was actually a tuberculosis treatment center. And in 1938, the land was donated. And in 1955, there was 15 acres set aside. At this point, Bear Hollow was just raising and releasing white-tailed deer with the help of the Georgia DNR and Warnell. Together, they invented the first tranquilizer gun. In 1970, the area was renamed Athens Children's Zoo because it was known as one of the first outdoor children play areas. At this point, the zoo was just for injured wildlife and unwanted pets. Then in 1984, it was renamed Bear Hollow Wildlife Trail and was on its way to becoming the zoo we know and love today. So in the pictures, you can see kind of the evolution of the zoo. And this first picture right here was one of the first alligator enclosures we had, which was nothing more than a kiddie pool inside a building. But now we have a very large outdoor enclosure where there's a concrete pond with a water feature going into it and plenty of area for our gator to sun on.
So we had several different goals and objectives this summer. The first one, discovering how a zoo is run, was kind of more of a personal goal for all of us. So we got to see all the bookkeeping, the planning and organization that goes into the day-to-day activities of a zoo, and we also got to learn, kind of the little cool things like the codes that you see on the radio if something were to go wrong. The rest of these goals are more goals that our employer Clint Murphy set. So the first one is learning about effective outreach. The keeper talks that we did were 10-minute talks about an animal in the zoo, and these were actually aimed at little kids, so it's kind of what Clint liked to call the 3-foot and under club. And we got to learn about the elements of an effective presentation, and we got really good feedback on that. And then also, we did these capture seminars where we got to work with older kids, so teach them how to use the capture equipment. So this is Elizabeth showing one of the pieces of capture equipment. This is the lasso, but we also did capture poles and nets and things like that. Lastly, we learned some valuable skills. One really big part of it was learning how to use certain equipment. We learned how to use tools like miter saws, post hole diggers, and other things like that. Also work vehicles. Additionally, we learned how to handle animals and show them to the public in a way that didn't endanger either the animal or the people, especially with kids or crowds. So that was really important. Also, here's our daily tasks and assignments. Because we were animal care interns, most of our day's time was spent doing animal care, of course. So with regards to food, we would make the diets and also feed them out. This is me feeding the alligator, Maisie. That was actually the day that I learned how to do that. So kind of nerve-wracking, but also awesome. We also helped deliver medicine to those animals who needed it. This is Gus the groundhog, who was an old man by the time that we got there, and he did require some medicine. Additionally, we helped clean up every day, clean up all the enclosures and things like that. We also helped settle in new arrivals. We had an otter come in, a gopher tortoise, musk turtle. We had a duckling that was born. We had a fawn that came at the beginning of the summer. And then also under this next topic, we helped with maintenance of the zoo. So maintaining the grounds with things like pulling weeds, clearing pathways, basically making sure that the zoo was navigable and looked good. We also helped maintain, alter, and build some enclosures. So even that was just like repairing, checking hot wires, doing things like that. And then I put everything else on here too because what was awesome about our internship was that every day was different. There was always a project, an event, something that we got to help with that day. So it was really neat to get to do that.
An essential part of our internship was a legacy project. A legacy project would leave a lasting effect on the zoo, and also it also dealt with new arrivals. Elizabeth and I decided to tackle an ongoing project with the red-footed tortoise. We created an outdoor enclosure you can see the concrete, and there was a concrete bottom. These were actually old remains from the old kitchen in the beginning of the zoo. And we actually cut all of these wood boards, and we screwed them together. This is the night house, and it actually has shingles on it. And we predator proofed it. So if you can see right here, we got some wire. The raccoons out when we were away, and the tortoise actually sleeps in there. More spacious enclosure for our 2 tree frogs. She created a new exhibit with more moss, a bigger watering dish, and they were actually happier and healthier after her contribution. She also created a very detailed handbook about the food, diets, and maintenance of every animal housed at the zoo, which is a long, very ongoing process for
Yes.
you. And lastly, Abby mentioned that we got the fawn at the beginning of the internship, and what we didn't know is that it required feedings every couple of hours, even when the zoo closed. So even at 1 a.m., we had to come up and feed the fawn. And at first, we got her from the UGA vet, and she didn't like being bottle fed, so the process took even longer. And soon after we got her fixed to where she'd actually accept the bottle, and it moved the process along. And then in July, we moved her to an outdoor enclosure by herself so she can get acclimated to the weather, sounds, smells. And then this last week, she actually moved into the male deer enclosure, so now he has a companion. And ongoing.
So each of us are at different points in our education here at Warnell. With our combined knowledge, Warnell had prepared us for most of the situations we came across this summer. For example, Abby had already taken dendrology, so she was able to identify some of our white-tailed deer's favorite browse. That way we could give him that as often as possible to make sure he actually ate his browse. She's also taken wildlife diseases already, so she was able to identify any harmful health hazards that our animals came across. And we have all experienced group projects, some better than others, but all group projects teaching a lesson in teamwork, which was a constant thing that we had with our fellow interns, whether it was asking someone to bring down some medicine before the zoo closed in the kitchen. And in that top picture, you can see one of our fellow interns and our boss showing the rest of us how to handle a screech owl for outreach programs. Although we felt prepared for most of the situations we came across, we did think that we could have known more about nutrition. We had an incident this summer where our otter, who was a new arrival, actually became pretty sick, and we hypothesized that it was because of the fish we were feeding him. And if we had known more about an otter's diet, it would have helped us know what was really wrong with him. And also for the internship, we were required to give a keeper talk, like Abby said. And the semester before I entered Warnell, I had taken a course in teaching with animals in the classroom. And I felt way more prepared going into that keeper talk than some of my fellow interns. So overall, Warnell has taught us a lot of what we'll use after graduation. But at this point in our education, we still have more to learn.
And I want to thank you guys for coming and watching our presentation. Does anyone have any questions?